fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
This track is one which everybody keeps on saying is one of the legendary circuits. It is a track which may not at first glance have as much prestige. It may not have as much raw drawing capabilities, but what it did from the mid to late 2000s and up into the early 2010s as what was the final round of the Formula One World Championship, this track will forever go down in history as one of the great finishers to a championship season. It's not quite the end of this season, though. There are still a couple of rounds left here in the Parramatta Isuzu Ute AOSC season, but that doesn't mean that this race isn't going to be as interesting, isn't going to be as dramatic, or isn't going to be as amazing. Qualifying is currently underway then here on SimSpeed TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We welcome you to this SimSpeed TV presentation. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Ross Rizzo and, of course, Jay Kennedy on the cameras for us. Ross, this is Interlagos. This is a tough track. This is a track where battling can go side by side easily for a lap. This is a track where temperature and heat temperature of the track is difficult. You look at the likes of the Center S as the main overtaking opportunities. The run up from turn 13 and it's flat out all the way to turn 1. Likes of turn 4 as well down the Reto Aposta could be the best place to see your moves. Anywhere is going to be a good place to try and get some major points.
Yeah, this track is simply amazing. It is one of those tracks that once you start driving it and understanding it, and then of course racing on it, which is a completely different thing to just lapping it, it really lends itself well on this sim, and that is why it is held in such high regard. And there's so much that can go wrong here. It's high speed. You've got a lot of traction zones as well, that if you light up the tires or overdrive the car, you can find yourself a sitting duck for a freight train of cars behind you all the way through the twisty infield. So it's going to be a really cool event as always, and we've seen either fantastic clean side-by-side racing for corner after corner after corner, or you get sometimes rather chaotic races, both of which will be fun to commentate. I'm sure we'll get one or the other tonight.
Well, one or the other, either way, it's going to be some very interesting battling action as qualifying laps are currently coming into at the moment. Track conditions, though, it is 30 degrees on the track in the air, ambience at 26.4, the mostly cloudy sky, winds coming in from the southeast at 11 kilometers an hour. Early morning conditions we have at this point in time, but it does mean, though, here, Ross, that the track temp is going to rise. You look at the lights of the pit window being 9 to 26 in terms of laps, 35 lap race that we're going to be having around this 4.2 kilometer circuit, this bowl of a track. This is going to be a tough qualifying and an even tougher race.
Yeah, certainly. We saw some very extreme tyre degradation at the Barcelona round, where you probably would want to pit later to be able to save the tyres, especially on a rising track temp. But we have seen early safety cars, and it's more important to get in ahead of that safety car rather than get the fresh tyres. So we're looking at Matt Morris complete a lap up through the gears. He's still trying to feather the throttle at this point, would you believe it? All the way towards fifth gear, you're still kind of making sure you don't run too wide or let the rear end flap fire out from behind you, even at that corner. fires it across the line. A 134.2 to beat, but improves to a 134.1 into 11th place.
Yep, good time from Matt Morris. He had a very good showing in Split 2 at Silverstone in Scots, and he very nearly got himself into the main event if it wasn't for one fantastic drive from Adam Blocker. Here's James Scott, though, in the 88, 7th position currently for the Evolution Racing team on the brakes up into Yunsao, the junction. Here up the hill, you try and find the power as much as you possibly can for running this section through the small kink left at Esquina dos Boxes, the final left kink of Aki Bankidas before heading over to the start-finish line. He's currently 6/10 off of Andrew Gilliam in the Pursuit sim racing car at the front of the field, and he does not find, actually he does find the improvement. He stays in 6th with Kyle Stokes finding improvement, but only still half a second back at this point in time. Someone who's having a great qualifying after a few poor rounds in the season, Michael Taliancic here, Ross, back to form.
Yeah, and that's really great to see from Michael. To his own admission, he claims his adaptability isn't one of his strong points, and we've been to some unusual circuits of late where we can attribute a lot of those qualifying struggles. But this track, I think he's got a lot more practice, a lot more I guess adeptness to this circuit. It's showing well. Got a time early on the board. That'll hold nicely for the top 5 as he makes his way down into Yunsao, and then again this run up the hill that it takes forever to get the traction down, but he'll be pleased to be only half a second off pole position off his very fast teammate in Andrew Gilliam.
Well, they have very similar setups. They'll know what this track is needed. Taliancic trying to diamond off the corner as much as possible here as they make the push over to the start-finish line. 133.7 is an improvement, goes up to 4th. He jumps the championship leader, Marlon Mcmullen. Mcmullen will be happy with himself in qualifying at the moment. 5th place, and even more ecstatic to the fact here, Ross, the Harley Haber's out for the rest of the season. He'll be incredibly happy as the gaming car will look to try and make his way over the line. Can he find any improvements on his time? He sets himself a 35 flat, which will not be any improvement.
Yeah, certainly a bombshell about Harley, but it was looking like he was getting closer and closer and treading the fine lines of potentially receiving a race ban, and those last few incidents did break the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. So that championship is well and truly over. We picked him as a favorite earlier. That's no longer the case. We still have an amazing championship between McMullen, Jordan Ross, Kyle Stokes in with a chance as well, and I think Andrew Gilliam with his run of form has a chance as well. As we look at Bret Locksmith, speaking of former champions, having a run to the line from P3. Don't think he's going to improve on this lap. 33.8, it is indeed not any improvement, but on the second row so far for a former champ, that should be a pretty good spot for Locksmith.
Yeah, and Brett doesn't have to deal with Harley Haber, who he's been very friendly with over the last couple of rounds of the championship. He knows he's got a free license to go out there and attack today. Dylan Shepherd currently in 25th position right now in the 043, making his way over to the finish line with just 5 minutes and a bit of spare change left in this qualifying session. Over the line he goes, and he does a 34.3. That's a great time. It jumps him 10 spots. He's up inside the top 15.
Yeah, excellent job from Dylan, who I think finished second in the second split race earlier this year, so does seem to have a bit of form. And I want to make some call-outs for what we're seeing in qualifying. Bo Albert again in the top 10 with position number 9. Damian Johnston in the top 10, who's had an enormously good run of form lately, ahead of his teammate in Jack Boyd. Then we have Matt Morris in 12. Joshua Pickett punching above his head as well. Punching above where he'd normally be as well in 13th, and Dylan Shepherd, as we just saw, in 15th place.
It's worth noting that the two Golden Rogue drivers are dead even to the thousandth of a second, 0.792 off of Andrew Gillian's 133. Looking at Kyle Stokes, though, outside shots as he had last season in the championship last season, which he led for the majority of the season, but ultimately fell by the wayside late after a poor finish at Zolder. But now can he find himself any way back through? He's not the fastest in pace. He's a consistent driver. 33.9 is a good time from him there. He stays 7th, though. He does not find enough improvement, and he puts it in the wall, giving him not much time to get what he wants. I've just seen another driver move up the order ever so slightly. I believe that's Christian Smart into 15th.
Yeah, so again, the Gone Road car's doing quite a good job This car on screen has had a perennially poor qualifying record. Jamie McKnight in 21st at the moment. We know he's capable of better time, of better, better speed than what he's currently showing at the moment, but he will admit that he is a better racer, and
he just does well. But James Scott has just gone up into 4th place in qualifying on a 1:33.690, so he'll be incredibly happy with that one. Sorry to steal your thunder a little bit like that one there, Ross, but you're looking at this and suddenly people are starting to find a little bit of time. It's a mostly cloudy surface, and look at 13th at the moment because Jamie McKnight has just found the qualifying. What was that about poor qualifying? McKnight says, no sir, I've found something today.
it looked like a slightly scruffy lap, especially exiting Jung South. So there's probably more time in it for Jamie. And here comes our Damian Johnson, currently P10, wants to find just a little bit more to try and clear Jack Boyd, but I guess Jack's a little bit more to gain if he's able to find any time whatsoever, literally any time whatsoever to beat Damian Johnston. But he's got a 34-1 to beat. He's got a very small margin to leapfrog Bo Albert, only 0.03 of a second, so he'll be wanting to hug this wall as close as he can to find every bit. Nope, he's going straight into the pit lane, which will probably be a talking point here tonight because it is a very fast entry. He barely pulls it up. Actually, a pretty nice pit entry, so they want to be practicing that high-speed pit entry to minimize their time loss on the pit lane.
Absolutely, they do. Drivers out on track who are looking to find improvements include Jordan Ross in the 1:43, second position, all over the grass, heading his way up to the start-finish line. I think that will be lap abandoned in terms of this one. That one won't count. So his next lap, this is going to be the crucial one because he's not going to find much more after this. Because it's open qualifying here, they know that after 20 minutes, timer will expire. They will have the opportunity to finish their flying lap. Other drivers looking to find a flying lap do include Jamie McKnight. You've got the likes of Kane Hewson up there in 14th place. He's not on track at the moment, so he will not find any more improvements. You've got the likes of Tom Freer up in 8th position at the moment for Team Hyperdrive. He's currently not on track. Some drivers cannot think they can find any more improvements out there. Someone who is looking for improvements, though, is Guy Leach. Let's see what he can do as he makes his way up to the line. Currently 32nd as he crosses it, and he gets himself a nothing. He goes to start his final flyer.
Yeah, he's going to want to pick up the pace from 32nd. Also, another few cars that are down the field. We've got Mitchell McLeod in 30th. So the fact he's actually gotten out for qualifying is probably plenty of practice for him, but expect him to make his way through the field unless he's able to improve on this lap. We also want to call out Hayden Veld, who I think is typically in the chat wishing he'd attend more races. He's there in 33rd. Actually, decent run for him, I think. Rob Harris, who's been performing quite well, only in 34th, will be looking to get a little bit higher up the field as well, I think. And of course, we can't have a field without Jake Maloney not setting a time and doing his last to wherever he can get challenge.
Well, we'll see how that one plays out. Jordan Ross will not find improvements, and that's so crucial as they were looking for it. 30 seconds remain. Question becomes, who will be last over the line and primed in position to get the best time possible out of this track? It will not be Steve Janssen, who dives down onto pit road. Other drivers out there, Mark Samuel trying to find times. That is Christian Smart, now back in 16th place. It's a big gaggle around 1:34.1, 1:34.2. Still nothing for him. He needs to find something more at the moment. So 5 seconds remain. Who's going to be last over the line? Greg Sharp won't find it. Josh Pickett will try and find one more lap time. Timer expires then here at Interlagos, and over the line, Matthew Norris will try and find his time, and he's all the way down, currently in 43rd position, but that will help with a 34.8. That jumps him all the way up to 30th. He'll be happy with that. 15th row is a good start. Guy Leach goes up to 24th then with his time. He finds a little bit of improvement. Jack Boyd, though, 11th position, needs to find a 1,000th of a second to gain a place. Jack Boyd for Gone Rogue. Hit or miss? Will he hit? Will he miss? He does hit. He goes up to 9th place and he finds the time that he was looking for. Perwin does not find improvement by just hundredths of a second overall. Jamie McKnight now. We said he was going to find a little bit of time. His lap did look scruffy. His 34.223. He's 1,000th clear of Kane Houston at the moment. He might want a bit more. He dives down onto pit road. He will not find improvements. Bo Albert might, though, for the Logitech G Altus Esports team. Cross the line, 34.5. He does not find the improvements there. He was half a second off of what he needed, but still likes Josh Pickett has a chance. David Kinman, haven't talked about him, down in 28th place, which is a little surprising given the strength of the field. There are a few drivers, I think, that David Kinman could be beating at this point in time as he makes his way narrow charge to the line, and he does a 34.571. He does find improvement up to the 12th row in 23rd position. We'll see if Jake Maloney, last vehicle on track, will find any improvements in terms of his time. We doubt that he will, and we will take you just after that to your starting grid. He dives down to pit road. The grid then as follows. So Andrew Gilliam gets pole position, 133.326. He gets it alongside Jordan Ross, who is fighting for that championship in the 143 Evolution Racing Team machine. Bret Locksmith starts this one on the second row. James Scott in fourth position behind him. Michael Taliancic, great qualifying for him. He's up in fifth with Marlon Mcmullen, the championship leader, in sixth. Kyle Stokes starts in seventh in the 888 Evolution Racing Team car with Tom Freer alongside for Team Hyperdrive in eighth. Jack Boyd will start this one ninth with Bo Albert. He says he's not good at supercars. He's in 10th.
Yeah, and I think we can stop believing that statement from Bo now. So in 11th place, Damian Johnston from Gone Rogue Motorsport. He shared the exact same time with Jack Boyd until he was pipped at the last moment. Matt Morris for JP's Simshed in 12th place. Then Jamie McKnight, great qualifying for him in 13th. Then we have Kane Houston out of position number 14. Joshua Pickett, excellent qualifying for the Exto Gaming car. Then Christian Smart in 16th place. Then we go to Dylan Shepherd in 17th place. Then Brad Newman. Sean Thompson, who's been in a decent run of form of late, so he'll be cool to watch, from 19th place. And rounding out the top 20 is Claire Mason.
Great qualifying for Claire with Scott Gamble and Greg Sharp on row 11. Row 12, we'll see David Kidman and Steve Janssen. Guy Leach goes from 25th with Henry King alongside. Cruz McVeigh in 27th. Shane Evans in 28th. And it's Ryan Jones and Josh Pervian in the 29th and 30th position.
Yeah, regular commentator Ryan Jones having a crack tonight, so good luck from 29th. We have in 31st place Matthew Norris, followed by Mitchell McLeod, then Dylan DeBono in 33rd, Hayden Veld, the solid 34th for him, Rob Harris out of 35th, so he'll have an interesting stream from back there, Nathan Tregarthen in 36th, Mark Samuel 37th, and then Jeff Bennett in 38th position, then Gavin Cox and Chris Barnes rounding out the top 40.
And then the final drivers, you got Simon Veller and Stacey Walker, 40th and 41st and 42nd, even Shane Rayner, Blair Walton, Will Newell, Mark Dial, Darren Goosey, Anthony Green on a 136.1, and Jake Maloney will do his last for How Far Up Can I Go over the course of 1 hour or such. 35 laps and one mandatory safety car, a competition caution as the green flag goes and they get themselves underway surprisingly early there in terms of the jump. Taliancic got a good one, Loxton didn't here as Scott tries to go down to the inside at turn 1. Gilliam is clear at the moment, but Loxton runs the deep line trying to get himself through and he almost gets himself around, but look at Scott on the outside line. Now he's got the inside at Curva de Sol. Maybe a few issues in the background, nothing to see at the moment. Everyone nice and calm. Loxton looking to the outside. There's no room at the end. Now looks again back to the outside as he weaves the position as he tries to go through. Top two are clear, but James Scott has got the jump, and there's McMullen instantly down on Taliancic.
Yeah, great mugging there from McMullen, and now Taliancic has Kyle Stokes to worry about, but around the outside of Ferradura, that seems unlikely, but they're going to have a crack anyway. Look how deep Stokes gets under brakes. Taliancic holding the tight line, giving him as much room as he can. He needs every room he can get out there, does Kyle Stokes. Tries to turn in on Michael there, but can't quite get the job done. They're side by side with Bo Albert and Jack Boyd as Boyd gets the move done on Bo Albert.
Oh, and Bo was trying to find some room. Boyd was struggling to get the power applied with the oversteer he was dealing with. He caught the back end, and Bo Albert had to yield and back out to make sure that he didn't find himself in any trouble at all as things continued on. At the moment, Sean Thompson not too pleased over the radio. He's dropped back there behind Dylan Shepherd and co. And looking behind, Claire Mason, Christian Smart's not had a good start, nor has Kane Hewson either. Both of them going back, as has Josh Pickett, as now they look to try and complete one lap here at this magical Interlagos circuit, and the front two have got a second to the rest of the pack. Gilliam and Jordan Ross at the moment will seem like they will fight for the victory in the early stages. Wide goes Bret Locksmith in fourth, and suddenly Marlon sniffs blood in the water. And right now,
big shot at turn one. They were 3-4 wide heading into turn one. McLeod, McFly, and I think Jones was involved in that as well. And it all just came unstuck when a car checked up a little bit early and caused a big shunt. Guy Leach involved as well.
Well, let's get a West End Mazda instant replay brought to you by westendmazda.com.au there as I read that as O, but for the moment you can see 3 wide there as they're heading their way towards turn number 1. It's always very difficult. We'll keep an eye on this. And it was a case of just getting a little too late on the brakes and wanting to the walls. Cruz McVeigh, he will not be happy. He was caught on the outside there as a bystander to all of this. We'll see this one then from perspective as we get this fantastic view of it. So on the brakes, and it looks to me like it's a bold call by the one performance car. Finds himself in the wall. I think that's Dylan DeBono just being a bit too greedy on the opening lap.
Yeah, hard to argue with that one. On board here from Jet Bennett, he just sees the cars just spearing everywhere, so we just pick up a nice 4 spots and a very aggressive re-entry from DeBono as well, just quickly getting back on with it, as he probably should. He will have to walk with his tail between his legs after that one though. So out front, it looks like they've started to find a rhythm now. McMullen starting to come under pressure from Bret Locksmith at the moment, and then there's Michael Taliancic also having to deal with a pretty quick Kyle Stokes at the moment. He's looking pretty racing. He's got a good draft for a chance for a dive at turn 1.
Oh, but Stokes leaves the door open, a tap from Tom Freer, so he just got himself a little bit wide. He got a bit too cute there, thought he could have a good run, and Tom's not happy about the fact that Kyle Stokes decided to leave himself that extra bit of room through turn 1. He had no time to react to it. Jack Boyd all over the back of this one as well. Worth noting that McMullen did last lap get through on Bret Locksmith, which gave him the extra position to move up to 4th, but they have to be careful because they are losing ground to the top 3. James Scott was the fastest man of anybody that last time by, close to 10th down in on Jordan Ross and Andrew Gilliam, but it's the mid-pack, it's the top 10 where the battle seems to be at its hottest at the moment as they look into La Laranjina once more, and no chances then of making moves. They head through the 180-degree left-hander, which folds its way back up the hill.
Just an amazing bit of racetrack here. We'll see some side-by-side through there soon. Oh, look at Jack Boyd, deep onto brakes. Gives Tom Freer nothing to answer to, but he does get the traction on the outside. No, he can't quite get there. So we'll file in behind, and they're side-by-side with Jamie McKnight, and I believe that's Dylan Shepherd, who Dylan is phenomenally good under brakes in any car, so I think he gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. Brad Newman has a look as well. Can't quite get it done on Jamie McKnight.
And just because he's made that move, he's suddenly got no traction up the hill, and this will allow Sean Thompson an opportunity. McKnight all over the back of Dylan Shepherd, trying to find opportunity to make a move, and someone else trying to make a move is Bret Locksmith, but he thinks better of it. He sits and waits and saves his fuel and starts thinking about the strategy card here in this race, something that isn't often talked about with Interlagos races, but this is probably one of the more diverse strategy card races because of the fact that it is a surprisingly short lap around here. 4.31 kilometers means that you can put a lot less fuel in the car than many people expect.
Yeah, in the first half of the lap, or from the final corner all the way to the Disquita del Lago, is a perfect drafting opportunity. And if you're in behind, if you're able to follow the leader well, you can save tyres, which is excellent for your late race pace, which will be a good strategy card. Jamie McKnight has a terrible run out of the Disquita del Lago as Brad Newman lines him up on the outside of Ferradura. Can't quite get it there, almost gets tagged by... Oh no, there's contact there. He backs out of it, and we'll probably have to let Sean through here. Note, he aggressively gets back on it. So, this is aggressive driving from Brad Newman early in the race, as his teammate, Dylan Shepherd, runs wide just ahead of them and allows them all to catch back up again.
Well, Brad Newman's going at any opportunity, and he's being about as useful as a hedgehog in any sort of factory whatsoever. So he finds himself in all sorts of trouble right now as he's trying to get through. He's just being far too aggressive at the moment, and he's putting himself under real copious amounts of pressure at the moment. Still though, Tom Freer under pressure, and Bo Albert could not get the run out to the final corner, and the draft train really not helping Damien Johnstone here to maybe think about making a move. Down at turn number 1, No chances for that at the moment, but he looks to the outside here of Bo Albert, trying to make the move sorted. On the brakes he goes, but again, nothing doing. Albert runs it wide. He'll compromise turn 2, and if John Stone is really good, he'll open turn 3 up, and he'll give himself an opportunity at the next section of track. Keep an eye on the leaders as well. Jordan Ross within 3/10 of the lead.
Still got our eye on this battle with Bo Albert, Damian Johnson and Matt Morrison behind. Damian's actually played that really, really well, but hasn't quite had the overspeed. But that defense from Bo Albert has... Oh, and he runs wide. And that's just going to cost them even more time, as you'll hold the inside line into Ferradura, and they're just going to keep losing time. And now Morris might have a shot here, but they really need to focus on staying with the cars ahead. This is costing them time. There are good draft opportunities here. Morris coming close to into the Laranjina. He has to run a defensive, just about gives him no option, but it somehow avoids contact. Very difficult to pull the car up when you're already committed into that corner.
Oh, Bret had a half think down at the right-hander, and it's forced Marlon Mcmullen to miss the apex there. Great strategy there from one certain Bret Locksmith, trying to go around the outside, trying to be the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be on the brakes at Yun Sao, and nothing going as he tried to make that work. So again, it's a case of where do you probe to find the mistakes out on track? At the moment, they are not there. For the lead though, still again, very close between Gilliam and Jordan Ross. We haven't had much looks at this because Jordan Ross has not been wanting to make the move. He closes within 2/10 over the line, but ultimately decides to sit and wait. Slightly missed apex from Gilliam though, and this is prime time for Jordan Ross, who tries to go around the outside of Curva de Sol. Doesn't work. Bret Locksmith gets through on Marlon Mcmullen, very, very crucially in the battle for 3rd and 4th, but Jordan Ross is sniffing now for opportunities.
So we've got an incident in the back of the field here. So 2 wide with, I think it's Claire Mason, Sean Thompson on Christian Smart having to take to the grass to avoid contact. Oh, but it's happened anyway with the hyperdrive car, and that's a high-speed incident. And lucky that it wasn't more cars involved there, because it is wild at that kind of speed.
I think Christian Smart got unsettled, and once he was unsettled, there was no way he could find his rhythm once again. So he's got to be cautious now about how he goes on. If he does have the ability to go on, he does have the ability of 1 fast repair, so a T-car, effectively, which allows him to get back on track with a fresh new vehicle, fresh rubber, fresh everything, straight out of the box and get back racing again. That's what the 1 fast repair is there for. But look at how the pack forms behind one Marlon Mcmullen, and now all of a sudden Albert Morris and also Damian Johnstone all form onto the back of this, and soon, if they're not too careful, they might allow Dylan Shepherd, Jamie McKnight, Brad Newman and Claire Mason onto the back of this as well, which would be disastrous for how good of this pack is. Again though, at the front of the field, here's Jordan Ross lining up the move. He is 1 car length back, and again decides not to go for it. 1/10.5. He's closing every single time. But Andrew Gilliam knows that the longer he stays in that lead, the less fuel he can save, the more Jordan Ross will have an advantage at the pit stop, which opens in 2 laps' time.
I'm pretty sure both those Evolution Racing Team cars will be very satisfied sitting where they are able to save fuel. As we have Jake Maloney, he's already up to 23rd. Can you believe that? So plus 26, he's passed more than half the field in just 6 laps, where you start lap 7 as he has a look at Steve Jansen. I'm also looking at this battle between Locksmith as he just runs wide, and with Mullen and Talianchis as well. They'll be happy to just sit in behind. They're the strategy guys. Knowing them, they'll wait for their moment later in the race. So they're happy to have guys just lead the way and pull and try to keep the train going as fast as they can. So they won't be looking too hastily for moves, but the same can't be said for the cars behind. I'm curious what they're going to be doing as they get closer to their pit stops.
On cue, through goes Jake Maloney on Steve Jansen. Greg Sharp going to be next. A bit of black traffic is the Redback racing car. There's Jack Boyd, looks to go for it then in the 38, side by side with Kyle Stokes. Tried it at the Bico de Pato, thought he had an opportunity, the door was left open, but again, nothing doing as they make their way to the junction corner and try and make their way up the hill once again. Little wiggle from Jack Boyd, no chance of finding himself any opportunities to go forward. That's how opportunistic you have to be as for the lead once again. Look at Jordan Ross right up to the bumper and nothing doing on the brakes. He's trying to get his teammate in as well to help as well. If they can get James Scott in, then Andrew Gilliam is going to have a very tough day when it comes to the battle.
Yeah, and exactly. They've got a world of time behind them. They've broken away over 4 seconds back to Bret Locksmith. So they've got a heap that they can play with now. So if they can just save fuel or even swap positions,
Maloney's
they'll be able to
straight on.
extend this.
Maloney straight on at turn 1. He spins it. He keeps it out of the walls. He was on the brakes. He got a little tap from Greg Sharp on the brakes. And then Maloney on the grass, that small little strip on the outside. No chance of slowing down the vehicle there. And all that progress. He now goes side by side with Hayden Bell, trying to keep pace. And just like that, Maloney's charge now will have to take a little bit longer and hope for a safety car a little bit later. Pit window opens at the end of next lap, and look at Jordan Ross all of a sudden. He is harassing Andrew Gilliam and saying, if you want to be a title challenger for all of the races that you've missed, for all of the drama you stirred up, you've now got to go out there and prove that you are better than me over 35 laps.
And it looks apparent to me that Jordan Ross does have more pace than Andrew, but he's deliberately not passing him for the reasons we've spoken about earlier. Now that James Scott is in the tow as well, this is only playing into ERT's hands. So I wonder what kind of strategy Michael Taliancic is telling his Pursuit Sim Racing teammate. Maybe let them through, maybe don't defend. It'll be interesting. He's an aggressive guy. So here comes Jordan Ross again. Does he go for the move? Again, no. Gilliam not running a defensive line either, so it looks like they've kind of sorted themselves out at the front here, and they're just going to hope that they don't get caught by the chasing pack behind them. Late move from Jack Boyd on Kyle Stokes. He leaves the door open. They'll run side by side through the center S's, and now Jack Boyd will get the really nice crisscross into the Curva de Sol. We'll hope he's on the wrong side, unfortunately. He was hoping for the crisscross so he can run it deep into the Skita de Lago, but it looks like he's got that now. Oh, Jordan Ross actually goes through on Andrew Gilliam.
Around or down the inside, he had enough of waiting. He looked and looked and looked, and Andrew Gilliam says, well, it's my turn to save fuel now, as Kyle Stokes holds the position compared to Jack Boyd. I'll be happy, but Boyd again might think about going to the right hand of the double right of the horseshoe corner, Ferradura, and no dice as they head up the hill into the Laranjina. But it is a change for the race lead. Jordan Ross takes it away from Andrew Gilliam. Now Gilliam's got to be wise here as he takes a shallower line through the Bico de Pato and now looks at Marulo, this long left-hander which is the tyre killer of the track, and then up at Jun Sao and get the run again. And I think for the time being, Andrew Gilliam has got to be wise to what Jordan Ross is doing here. They know that a safety car early does favour the earlier pit stop more rather than the later.
And he certainly by no means has lost the race by having Jordan go through on the inside there. There's more than enough time for him to make up for that, plus a safety car. Looking at Bret Locksmith, he looks a little bit more comfortable now leading this train. They seem to have sorted themselves out. I am noticing they are locking a few brakes and stuff, so I'm wondering if that's more to do with tyre wear rather than a racecraft issue. So curious to see if they're going to continue to save fuel or save tyres towards the pit window, which I'm sure some of these guys need to be considering to get out of the way, especially guys like Jake Maloney, who we saw have really good pace at the start and has found himself in dramas, could benefit dramatically if a safety car comes out in the next few laps with an early pit stop.
Well, an early pit stop could mean anything. None of your front drivers come in at the end of lap 9. They may feel it's a little bit too early at the moment to go out there to push, to try and to make sure that anything works out for them in the early goings. But the drivers in that middle pack, it's the moment somebody decides it's the right time to come down in. Everybody plays undercut covering strategy. This is very much the case of he who pits first makes sure that everyone else pits after him. And that's what I think everyone's going to be looking at and trying to worry about in the early goings. The top 3 can pit effectively when they like. Those in the mid pack are probably going to have to look at, well, can we get a big undercut? We're already 6 seconds plus off of the race lead here, and we need a lot to keep ourselves going. And it is also worth noting that Matt Morris is struggling on the back of Damien Johnstone to stay in touch with the leaders here, with Dylan Shepherd just 2 seconds back, who could catch the train.
Yeah, Matt Morris staying put in 12th place, and maybe has torched the tyres a little bit or out-qualified his expectations. Regardless, he's got a bit of a fight on his hand. The undercut isn't a huge option at the moment. The field is really well spread, maybe 1 or 2 seconds between each car as we go outside the top 25, where we can expect the cars to exit after they make their pit stop. So you're going to run into traffic very, very soon. I'm looking at Jake Maloney lining up a move on Josh Perwin with Chris Barnes, who we haven't paid any attention to, from 40th to 27th. So an understated drive from Chris Barnes so far. So we're seeing some really Oh, we're seeing a first pit stop as well. Can't see who that is, sorry.
Scott Gamble, who is the first to come down in. So the 5-4-3 makes the first decision, came down in from 20th place, slide, and that is the slide that goes for Ryan Jones, who is having a good run. We normally see him in the commentary box. He was side by side with Greg Sharp. There was no contact through turn 2, and there is proof that if you can't race, you decide to join us in the commentary box.
Excuse me? Well, there we go. No, he's having a good run. So Greg Sharp, he was involved with Jake Maloney, who he's having to deal with now, and it was a slightly ambitious move from Greg Sharp with turning Maloney around. Not intentional, I'm sure, but a bit clumsy. But Maloney has loads of pace. Will he send it at the Laranjina? He does not. He'll have to wait a few more corners, maybe get the traction out of Jung Sao to send it into turn 1.
Well, it's all about the waiting game, and I think a lot of drivers are thinking about it. Maloney decides, yep, I've waited just about long enough. Sharp will try the outside line, but the Stealth Simforce car has no dice. And just like that, Jake Maloney comfortably picks up a position and gains one more. Who decides it's time to come down onto the lane? It's Tom Freer for Team Hyperdrive making the call to come down onto the lane. Oh, way too late on the numbers there. And I think he may have just got himself 15 seconds. We'll have to see how long this stop is.
I think he might have gotten away with it. He slowed it right down to underneath 80 kilometers very rapidly after he hit it. So he might have gotten away with it. We'll find out very shortly.
Well, we'll see. It might be a long stop. Where is Scott Gamble in response to this? Because this will be the key. And here is going to be the case. Is this going to be a case of, am I going to come out all nice and dandy at the moment? It seems like it is a yes for Tom Freer, who will come out along with Mark Samuel and Stacey Walker, which is not going to be ideal. He'll be just behind them because of the nature of this long pit exit, and it is a very long pit exit here to try and get out. Here's Sean Thompson, though. Oh, trying to go down the inside of Claire Mason. That was not a wise move. Suddenly, the Hyperdrive car thinks about going in the middle. Mason shuts the door, and she does well to do so. Kane Houston was looking at maybe getting 2 for 1. Now Thompson has to go defensive, and all 3 of them are rattled.
Yeah, a bit of clumsy driving from all of them there. Like, Sean wasn't very far up there, but I think Claire knew that Sean was there, so kind of turned down anyway, expecting that he was going to back out of it.
Look at Jack Boyd around the outside of Yun Sao. Are you a madman? Went around the outside of Mahulo, around the outside of Yun Sao, and is around the outside looking for turn number 1. It's almost like an Eminem song with 2 trailer park boys going around the outside. It seems there's no chance at the moment to try and get this one sorted. Can Jack Boyd go about 5 corners on the outside to make this move? Has he got a lane to the inside? No. What an effort it was, but ultimately fruitless.
Yeah, and it looks like they may have potentially lost the train to the draft in front. It was a great attempt from Jack Boyd, and Kyle trying to minimise the time loss did give him a lot of room, probably a little bit too much now that he's gotten away with that. So they're going to have to cooperate to catch back up to Talianchis, who's looking actually very racy all of a sudden on the back of McMullen and Bret Locksmith. I'm wondering if there's been a mistake from Locksmith lately. I've seen a 36.1 on lap 11 compared to the 35s he was doing earlier, but that was a fairly long time ago compared to the compression that we're seeing now from these guys.
Well, not much difference. It's just been a case of chipping away at the gap for the likes of, say, McMullen and Talianchich at the moment. Again, still under pressure is Kyle Stokes as Jack Boyd looks to apply that pressure and get the move. You've got to be wise to this one here, Kyle. This is where Jack Boyd always likes to make the move, but this time not close enough to see any of that coming to fruition. So again, no dice, waiting game. It will continue for a little bit. Dylan Shepherd still under pressure. Brad Newman has refused to let go, and Brad certainly seems quite quick, and he'll need that safety car because he knows that it will be in absolutely his favour the longer that this goes on to make sure that he gains those places. Does anyone decide to come down in? They're allowing Tom Freer in the middle of this pack to get some good laps in, and ultimately still nobody deciding they want to come in on lap 13.
Actually, these aren't great laps from Tom Freer. He's still stuck behind the Conroy Motorsport car of Damien Johnson. Actually, have we missed a pit stop? So Damien Johnson has made a really great call here. So Tom Freer was stuck behind Stacey Walker and Mark Samuel, so that was holding him up a little bit. Didn't quite get the undercut that he needed. Now Damien Johnson can effectively drive away from him now, but Tom Freer does have the draft advantage to be able to get some of that time back.
Sean Thompson is down on pit road. We'll see if he leaves his box shortly. At the moment, it looks like he's waiting. He comes down off of his jacks, just waiting for the fuel. And it's a long stop for Sean Thompson. Through goes David Kinman. I think he's waiting an extra 15 seconds. Don't you think so, Ross?
Yep, that looks very telling. Normally the service would be happening while the car's on the jacks, so if he's come down, he's clearly serving a penalty. Yeah, he's hit the line at nearly 130 kilometers. There's no way he was getting away with that one.
Well, he'll not be too best pleased with that. Made his debut in Scots just this past weekend at Silverstone. Caution! Oh, what a time for a caution to come out. Everybody is out there on track now, and a lot of drivers, almost everyone, decided not to make the early call here. Lap 14, the caution comes out, and all of a sudden, everybody is in trouble. Damien Johnstone and Tom Freer have been the ones who've got away with it.
So there's been an incident under caution, so if we can get the replay of that one.
Well, let's have a look. West End has the replay. So here's Jamie McKnight. He's thinking about coming down the inside on the brakes at the Desquita de Lago, and he gets himself through, but I think the caution comes out halfway through the move, so he may just have to lift off of it and let him back through, does he? Or what happens here? So he gets himself up into this next right-hander. He finds the train checking up, and all of a sudden, oh, slow down. It's what happens when everybody checks up like that. It's the one issue. Nobody holding a consistent pace, and I have to say, Hayden Veld, who was in 46th place, found himself in all sorts of trouble, and I think he may have even had damage at that point, Ross, and I'm just looking, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that's a tough one to call, and a really unfortunate situation, because everyone's trying to do the right thing. If that car was limping home, because it has blown an engine, we suspect. Yep, there it goes. So the downshift's getting him there, and the car obviously not wanting to go anywhere. Caution comes out probably some point around there, and you're not sure whether you can overtake the car at that point. Car's arriving at a hot speed, and it becomes a calamity very, very quickly.
But if you have blown an engine like that, Ross, and you know you're under caution and drivers are going to be checking up, slowing down, you surely, as a driver, have to get that blown engine vehicle off the track as quickly as possible.
Yeah, true, and if he was able to escape back to the pit lane and be able to get the fast repair, he'd be able to get back out. But anyway, Hayden was, I think, pretty excited to get onto one of these broadcast races, so probably a bit of an experience catching him out there. So we're not far from seeing cars enter the pit lane, but we have referred to Tom Freer and Damien Johnston, who have made their pit stops, who have cycled through to the front of the field. And this isn't the first time Damien Johnston has really done a great job under the SC. We saw him do that at Donington, where he had to run a very lean fuel strategy to get to the end. I don't think that'll be the case today. So I'm curious what they're going to be able to do and see where our leaders of Jordan Ross, Andrew Gilliam, and James Scott will come out. Now, let's also remember the ERT cars would have saved a lot of fuel behind Andrew Gilliam, so should, in theory, come out ahead of the Pursuit Sim Racing driver.
Well, they would have both saved a metric ton and an imperial ton, respectively, as they will look to try and dive down onto pit road. Will anyone be bold enough to not come down onto pit road and try and pit under green flag conditions? The answer is very firmly no. Everybody is diving down onto the lane, except one Mark Dial, who's a lap down and wants to gain the lap back, which will give the lead then to Damien Johnstone and Tom Freer, as they all look to try and get themselves in on pit road. It's a battle of crews as they look for their boxes towards the middle and the end, and it's a concrete pit box, so they've got to be careful as they try and go through. Someone's missed their box in the middle there. Didn't quite see who that was. It was Taliancic or Stokes, one of the two, as they go through. So who's going to be the one who gains that advantage? Is fantastic as they get out of pit road. Oh, it's so tight off the lane. I think that may have just been a steal there by Jordan Ross. He gets himself back on the power. I think he may have just got that. And you've got Bo Albert and also Michael Taliancic fighting with each other. Taliancic will win that battle out. But that was a steal, if ever I saw one, from Jordan Ross.
I'm shocked that Gilliam actually had to race Andrew Gilliam there. I thought he was dead in the water, but I think actually Gilliam's got the position.
He's had to give it back.
Are they swapping the position? That's amazing. So Gilliam has somehow come out ahead here. Now, that has to be some kind of short fill to be able to do that. There's no way that I could see that he was going to be able to get out ahead with all the fuel saving that the ERT cars would have been able to do. Also, a big winner out of that was Jack Boyd, who's now snuck up behind Bret Locksmith and ahead of Marlon Mcmullen, Taliancic, and Bo Albert has also crept up the field as well. So an interesting round of pit stops here with a shaken up order and some very unexpected moves, particularly that Andrew Gilliam one.
Well, there are a few drivers who decided that they didn't want to come down in and make a stop. So that's going to be very, very telling. One of them who did was Guy Leach. So Guy Leach has come down and made a stop. You've got Rob Harris, Shane Evans, Mark Samuel, Josh Pickett, Sean Thompson, Blair Walton, Steve Jansen, David Kimman, Scott Gamble, Jamie McKnight, Claire Mason, Tom Freer and Damien Johnstone. Those are all who are ahead of your race leaders who came down in onto pit road. Only a couple drivers have not made the stops, so the pace is going to be behind Damien Johnstone at the front of the field. Lights off on top of the Mustang iRacing first safety car. We will be going green this next time by here, Ross, but you have to say, big gainers. Claire Mason up to third, McKnight in fourth, Scott Gamble in fifth, and he was the first to stop.
And we know Freer has good pace, so he got a podium at Barcelona. Can he pick up the W today? He's going to have to fight Damien Johnston here. He's on fresher tyres. Claire Mason, I know, has good form here. Made a Scops debut a while ago and took a very impressive second split victory. So we'll be very, very excited to be able to have a crack at a podium today. And a damaged Jamie McKnight, unfortunately, hasn't been able to keep his nose clean today. With that unfortunate incident under the SC.
Well, this is going to be a very big restart here. Johnstone is right up behind the pace car. He will want to go on his time. And a huge gap back to Jamie McKnight, who wants the biggest overspeed possible. Green flag goes, and let's get going. And look at Claire Mason off the start. She wanted to go immediately. Tom Freer immediately thinking about going to the outside. No room at the end. He left himself nowhere to go. Round the outside tries Kimmer. Scott Gamble has to play defensive in the early stages. They go through lap 17 of 35, the halfway distance at the end of this one, and Gilliam isn't off the track.
Gilliam was up on two wheels there, and he probably has to serve a slowdown. They're three wide through the Curva de Sol, so that's Scott Loxton. Loxton forced off the road here, has to rejoin. We've seen this before.
Oh, it's a huge accident, and it continues going through, and surely that may just be a second safety car for damage reasons, and the championship leader involved. Marlon Mcmullen got turned in it all.
Oh, we saw a similar incident in the Premier Series. We've seen it before in the Sprint Series Australia as well, where a car off the road causes all kinds of drama out of the Curva de Sol, and it's collected. It's had huge championship implications. I hate to use the cliche, and you see, check up from. Oh, yeah, that's hard to pick the point that it all happened. Kyle Stokes involved as well, so two championship contenders. So Jordan Ross gets away with it, I think. I don't see any damage on his car. Oh, well, I can't find it, first of all. Taliancic reversing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Oh. Get out of there.
Oh, Jordan Ross and Mark Samuel almost coming together, and a second caution comes out. A caution breeds a caution.
Yeah, that was a good call there. The cars were just sprayed all over everywhere, and it'll give a chance for those who need it to come down into pit lane and get back out there. So that's a big sigh of relief for our championship contenders, McMullen and Stokes and whoever else was involved in that crash. But we usually don't see this. We usually only see the one SC, and this gives a big free kick to the likes of Johnston and Freer and Mason, who now don't have to worry so much about having to defend from the faster cars behind. Some of them are now going to have to be further back, and now, of course, they're able to save their tyres a little bit. Gilliam as well, probably, I wonder if he got away with damage. He was up on two wheels out of turn one, so that's a really wild restart.
Well, let's get another replay of just everything that went on that restart. We'll look at it from Andrew Gilliam's perspective first and foremost here as they were looking to go through. Jordan Ross got away with it. He got the big restart. He gained one place overall in terms of his start, but Andrew Gilliam, he gets a good start here. He immediately goes aggressive here. He sees that they're fanning out almost three wide, the Exto Gaming car in the middle, and he just decides to be too bold. He goes to the outside, trying to pick up positions early. Jordan Ross sees a gap, and suddenly the door closes there, and Gilliam does not leave room on the outside. He would rather not run into it. He then checks up in front of the whole field, which puts them four wide through the Curva de Sol. This is where Bret Locksmith goes on the outside there. You can see the Super Racing car on the left-hand side of the screen. Suddenly they're three wide, and there's the checkup in the middle. It's Taliancic and co who gets caught. McMullen caught up in all of this, and everyone then just gets brought into it. Bang, 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 bang. And just like that, there will be another safety car, and it continued, and Taliancic there. Maloney was upside down, but Taliancic, I think, has to take a big responsibility in the continuation of that accident there, Ross, because of the fact that he did not hold his brakes and went straight on through the Desquita del Lago backwards.
Well, if that's the case, we've seen 2 dangerous re-entries from Pursuit Sim racing cars in 2 corners, because that rejoin from the Curva de Sol from Andrew Gilliam was not very smart either, so he might have something to answer to there, and that will certainly impact his championship. We've got it again here. So here's Taliancic. They see that they go 4 wide at this point here. You've got Loxton off the track, Scott gives him the room, but then it's the check-up, or the check-in with Guy Leach as Taliancic goes for a spot that's not really there. So, yeah, it's... I don't know if Taliancic will want to claim full responsibility for that. I don't think he can, but that was a big instigator for that crash.
It was, and I think Guy Leach was also entitled there, Ross, not to leave any room for Taliancic on the outside because of the fact that he had 2 tyres on the grass. You could technically claim that he is outside of the racing parameters you do not have to leave a car with.
Yeah, correct, and I would have done exactly the same thing. I wouldn't have let that same car back on. So that was the right decision for Guy Leach in terms of racing rules, but it has had a huge repercustions for the remainder of the field. And yeah, it's those ones you don't want to be in RC for, but it does look like you have to give a stern look to the car that was off the track at the time.
Well, this has completely changed the way that this race is going, as Jake Maloney will try and get out ahead of the safety car and keep himself on the leading lap. I think he just about gets away with it. So, Damien Johnstone still leads. Tom Freer still in second position. Claire Mason got a good start, but she only finds herself in 3rd position at the moment. Jamie McKnight is 4th. David Kinman 5th. Scott Gamble dropped off the start. He goes back to 6th place. It's Sean Thompson in 7th. Stevie Jansen 8th. Josh Pickett is 9th. But the big danger man through all of this is Jordan Ross. He's there in 10th position, and he's got himself drivers that he knows that he can very easily dispatch, and he's got 9 of them that he's got to get going. The bad news is he's only got himself about 15 laps to be able to dispatch of all of them, and he's got Mark Samuel in between himself and Andrew Gillian. That's the one respite. Bo Albert, the big gainer in that restart, he's net 3rd.
Yeah, I think Jordan will be able to cope with this pressure quite well. He has had some pressure cooker situations with cars behind him, notwithstanding Jared Filsell at Spa and Forzan Ornabi at the end of Koto. But now he has to look forward to be able to see if he can wrap up a race win here. But he does have an excellent advantage over his championship rivals, Carl Stokes and Marlon Mcmullen, who I've just seen come out of the pits with fresh cars, fresh rubber, just ahead of, oh, that car just disappeared, good old Ryan Jones, who was in 30th at the time. So they've got a lot of cars that they're going to have to pass to get back to where they need to be, and they're probably going to have to be a little bit more aggressive than otherwise like to be, remembering these guys are the clean and consistent ones in this group.
Well, they've got to be clean, they've got to be consistent, and they've got to make sure that they make those passes pretty quickly around this track. You can't get away with battling for half a lap. You'll lose a second, 2 seconds around here if you're just being too busy thinking about your side-by-side battle, which may look nice for the camera, but if you can't get it done, you can't gain positions, you can't go out there and win this race. What do you do if you're Damien Johnstone? You've had 3 more laps to try and just steady yourself with the ship at the front of the field. As just looking at the pace car lights off, we'll go for another restart here as we'll try and get this a take 2 as they go. It'll be lap 20 of 35, which will leave just 16 laps to go here at Autodromo José Carlos Pace, as they will get themselves here at Interlagos underway once again. Johnstone was a little slow on the restart. Freer 2nd, Mason 3rd. And again, Jamie McKnight leaving himself a lot of room in 4th position here to try and attack this restart. We'll see if this plays off for him at the moment as he closes up slowly. And this is going to be the big worry. Pace car will come down in. It'll be a quick green flag. And Tom Freer has got to be as quick, if not more lightning, as he goes. And Johnstone gets him caught napping here. Green flag goes. Great start from the Golden Road driver. And it's a lot cleaner at the front already side by side. Is there a pass before the start-finish line? Just no, I believe, for the battle between Steve Jansen and Josh Pickett. Around the outside they go. Gamble and Thompson as well side by side as they go through. Already there goes through it on Mark Samuel, Andrew Gilliam, and Jansen having to defend hard in the early stages here from Jordan Ross.
Oh, and Gilliam can mug them both here. We could see another 3 wide into Desquita Delago as Mark Samuel, Bo Albert, and James Scott with all the overspeed of the world, but nowhere to go with it. They hold position out with Jordan Ross ahead of Gilliam. Bo picks up the spot on Mark Samuel, as does James Scott. We're on for the lead again here. Jordan Ross runs wide right there as well. But we got Tom Freer with an excellent turn of speed lately, attacking Damien Johnson, who has slightly fresher tyres, but Damien running in very narrow, locking up the tyres. Claire Mason in hot pursuit as well with a damaged Jamie McKnight, just trying to make the apex there, but with a very damaged car is going to struggle to do so. So Jordan Ross getting on with the job, but Andrew Gilliam has stuck with him just as he needs to.
Another incident, and we've just caught the back of that one. It's 2 vehicles. It's Rob Harris in the KRF car and Nathan Tregarthen for Stealth Simforce. Both of them have come together then on this opening lap of the second restart as they look to get themselves going, but the top 3 remain unchanged for the moment. Crucially, though, it is Jordan Ross and Andrew Gilliam who are both trying to make the headway through the field as Scott and Co try and make their way past Steve Jansen. Oh, that's sideways and a half there from Jordan Ross up through Desquita Dos boxes. You never see a vehicle sideways through that corner, and suddenly Andrew Gilliam sees a spark of life as he goes down to the outside to try and make this one work at turn 1, as both of them title challengers need as much as they can. Wide goes Pickett, contact there as they go through, and Gilliam gets 2 for 1.
Yeah, that was all caused by Pickett there, and Bo Albert's going to pick the pocket of Jordan Ross as well around the outside of the curve at a Sol. And still, Josh Pickett is in front of these guys, so we'll play a factor going into the Desquita Delago. Jordan Ross on the inside will get break later. Bo has to run out, absolutely abort the apex to avoid running into the back. James Scott has a run. Bret Locksmith getting squirrely as well with a big damage, and Steve Jansen, and I believe that's Jack Boyd also lining up the move into Ferradura. Josh Pickett still holds the position ahead of Jordan Ross, with Bo Albert still trying to fend off James Scott.
And Jack Boyd runs wide. He almost ran into the side as look at that from Jordan Ross. That's uber aggressive down the inside of Josh Pickett. But Pickett's going to hang him out to dry like yesterday's washing, trying to hold the position as behind that Jack Boyd tries to deal with the move. Another little look to the inside, and now Jordan Ross starting to get frustrated. Picks a run up off the exit, but it won't be a good enough one. He might have to try and make a lunge somewhere where Josh Pickett doesn't expect it, because Pickett's defending hard. Sideways goes Thompson in front, and Kinman will go through, as will go one Scott Gamble, as will go another position for Andrew Gilliam, who will be incredibly happy about that. But look how much Josh Pickett is holding off Jordan Ross here. A whole lap he hasn't been able to make that move, and that could be the difference maker.
Oh, 100%, but Sean Thompson's not done with Andrew Gilliam as well. Is he having a look down the inside? Does he continue with the move? He does not. He's better off staying in the coattails. Joshua Pickett is overdriving this car like crazy, and it's going to only frustrate the cars behind him. They have a job to do. They have a championship to worry about, and this car can barely even make an apex, so you can understand if Jordan's going to start bustling him here at the moment. Oh, here comes Bo Albert looking to make it 3 wide, or does he? Does he follow Jordan Ross through? Jordan needs to get deeper on the brakes, or he needs to be braver. Hang on, has Gilliam lost a position to gamble there? Yes,
no,
indeed
he's trying
he
to make his way
back
through here. He's trying to make his way through here, Ross. So this is going to be crucial. Scott Gamble lifts and gives the position then to Andrew Gilliam, who gets the move done. It was a lock-up there through turn 4, which cost him. And suddenly Thompson thinks about going at it here on the brakes. Pickett's lost 2 positions then, one to Bo Albert, and he gets the tap as well from James Scott. And suddenly, cookies for 1. Bret Locksmith trying to go down the inside. He can't shut the door. Has he shut it fully? No. Big lunge will come here at the Bico de Pato, the Ducksbill corner. And suddenly, it's a now fight 2 wide here as Bret Locksmith, damaged boot and all, makes his way through.
Yeah, I think James Scott will be very aggrieved at what happened to Blair here. Josh Pickett just straight up turned in on him. He was there the whole time, and now has lost out the position to Bret Locksmith. He's going to have another crack at him, though, out of Jung Sao, but it's going to be hard to pull it. He's got the inside line. They're going to have to feather the throttle through the Subida dos boxes, but now the draft comes into effect for James Scott.
Here comes Gilliam down the inside of David Kinman. Has he got it checked up? He has, and that's another one in the Andrew Gilliam pocket. He's now only 5 seconds behind Damien Johnstone, who leads by 1.4 at the front of this field. He's pulling away from one Tom Freer, as here's Bret Locksmith under pressure all of a sudden, as Dylan Shepherd decides it's time to get aggressive. It's time to think about making a move. He couldn't hold off one certain James Scott. On the brakes they go, no dice.
Just looking at this pass with Bret Locksmith, there was a slight checkup, but no, he got it done nice and cleanly. I saw the gap suddenly blow out to enormous proportions with Josh Pickett in front, so I thought there was an accident, but they've closed that gap back up. And now look at how close they are heading into the Laranina. We've got Jordan Ross having to attack Sean Thompson, who's trying to have a crack at Scott Gamble. It was also played out very well between Gilliam and Kennedy teammates to let that happen easily. But Jordan Ross has damage to now have to contend with this. He has another look at the Pickett Pato. We have another spinner in the midfield here.
Brad Newman, who's gone round in the number 39. It was contact with Ryan Jones, was it, as they go through. So here's Taliancic then, coming up the hill and around into this right-hander. Nothing between those. Those were staying side by side for the moment. And actually Henry King as well has also gone off. I thought we were on replay. Here we are now with the West End Mazda instant replay to see exactly what happened to Brad. And oh, it was a huge incident there at the Laranina corner. So Brad Newman was already around. I wonder if we can get that back a little bit further. He was side by side with Guy Leach, and the 46 and the 660 of Matt Morris gives him a tap on the inside. And there's Brad Newman not holding the brakes and being an absolute nuisance for everyone trying to find the outside of the track. And you have to say, Brad Newman, that's some poor driving as they go on. Look at now Gilliam. He's all over Jamie McKnight for fourth.
Yeah, Jamie's having to deal with a very damaged car. He lets him through here. Ex-teammates, these two at the West End Mazda crew, I think the development series performance sim sport team. So Andrew Gilliam up into a podium spot. No, not quite. He's got another position to go to get to a podium spot with Claire Mason trying hard to chase down Tom Freer.
Not long to go, 11 laps at the next time they cross the start-finish line. And again, Thompson defends well here against Jordan Ross, who is not finding his way through. He's not flowing through the traffic, and now he leaves the door open. Bo Albert not there to capitalise on the inside of his former teammate. Bret Locksmith, though, gets turned as he goes through to the next section of track. So Bret Locksmith finds his turn, and this is the West End Mazda instant replay of this. It was up the hill. Here's Dylan Shepherd trying to get back at him down the inside. Bang, there's the contact, and that was very, very brave from Dylan Shepherd. Brave, but I don't think it was the wisest decision in the world. You can see he has no overlap coming in and doesn't get alongside his A-pillar, and just like that, it's around, and there's more, and that's Jordan Ross. That's Jordan Ross, is it? Yes, it is.
Oh, and he's crabbing too, so this is terminal. Oh, so that was with Sean Thompson, so he's had the inside line into Yung Sao. Oh, and
left him out of room on the exit.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say. Has Jordan come across there? I'm having to look at the replay. Oh, Sean has lost traction on the inside. On the outside, and that's speared him into Jordan's car, which has speared him into the fence.
Oh, well, it's not what you want to see. You can also argue the same fact that he's held his line on the outside line. In comes Jordan Ross for the one fast repair and trying to get back out and going once more. He'll need to uncheck the tyre boxes. He'll need to uncheck the fuel as he goes through. Dylan Shepherd is slow, out on track as well. So Shepherd has maybe run himself into a huge, huge issue. He hit the wall all on his own, and this was right after the incident. He was on his own behind one driver. He gets over the curb, he slides in at Sabina Dos Boxes, and he hits the Fernando Alonso tyre, the Armco, there on the right-hand side with Mark Webber and co. And just like that, Shepherd is limping for the lap.
Well, I'm glad he didn't go spearing across the track like I think Felipe Massa did in the wet, and could have potentially wiped out 3 or 4 cars behind him. But obviously we don't have the wet in today's very hot conditions, and the track's still getting warmer and warmer by the moment. So is that going to start to play a factor on these guys' tyres? They've been driving extremely hard ever since the green flag dropped again, and we have Andrew Gilliam on the inside of Claire Mason. It's been an inevitable kind of move, and I think Mason's just going to have to let the position go here. He's chasing down the leaders at a phenomenal rate. Last lap by a 35.5 with the pass is matching Tom Freer, but should be able to clear about 3 to 4 tenths of a second per lap in clean air. But it's going to be difficult to catch Damian Johnson, who's driving beautifully out front. This could be the GRM driver's best chance of stealing a victory if he can keep it together. An excellent drive so far from Damian.
Keep an eye out on championship contenders. Marlon Mcmullen is back to 17th place after his pit stop. and trying to make his way through the field. Kyle Stokes will be next in front of him. Here's Matt Morris down the inside of Steve Janssen. Position changes then for 12th place, and it's a freebie as he goes through. So there is still so much in the offing for this one. With not long left to go in this race. We're inside the final third. Where is one Mr. Jordan Ross? He's back down in 32nd position, and he's 7 seconds away from the next vehicle. This could be the death knell in the Jordan Ross title challenge. All of a sudden, if Andrew Gilliam can find a win, he's picking up not tens of points, he's picking hundreds of points off of the championship leader.
And he's got form too, so this is amazing. An amazing run of form for Andrew Gilliam to be able to potentially steal a championship here. Marlon Mcmullen fighting hard, but isn't able to make the inroads he would have hoped. I think he restarted about 30th, so he was up to 17th with Kyle Stokes. Just still a good chance for him to get into the top 10 with the field still bunched up. Bo Albert having a look at Scott Gamble, who's held his position extremely well from the restart, but I don't think we'll have much of an answer to the Altus Esports driver, but does have the draft of David Kinman to help him out, which is a great defensive within itself. And look at James Scott right behind them as well. Hasn't been able to make the move, but here comes Bo. Oh, he locks it up! Is he going to hold? No, he holds the drift. Still sliding, still sliding, still sliding. Cue the Euro beat. And here comes Scott Gamble back. He's still lighting up the rears. So Bo needs to, no, he's lost this car. He's overheated the tires, and this is going to make him a sitting duck for James Scott behind. He needed to just feather the throttle that little bit more. A late kind of move to the inside to defend, but James Scott hard on the brakes. Doesn't quite get the job done at the skid of Interlagos, but needs to get the traction as they make the run up to Ferradura. Can he clear him? Not quite. Now he can. There he goes. It was just the traction that was missing from Bo into Ferradura.
Just a matter of time, and time proving of the essence as that worked out. Andrew Gilliam could only gain 2/10 compared to Damien Johnstone that last time by. He's going to need the draft of Tom Freer if he has any opportunity to go out there and get what he wants. What about McMullen? Look at the train he's going to approach on. Stokes, McLeod, Leach, Janssen, Pickett, and Matt Morris, who's just got through on Josh Pickett this lap. This is crucial now because every position is more points to get back to one Andrew Gilliam. Gilliam can't do anything more than get past Freer and Johnstone. He knows, does McMullen, he's got to get up past the likes of Matt Morris because 11th place could still be in the offing.
Absolutely, and at the front of that queue is Morris and Pickett, who have been in the wars today. So are they going to cause more dramas to potentially open the door for more cars behind them, or will they involve the championship contenders yet again? Here's Guy Leach with a good run on the back of Steve Janssen. It's an excellent run, but he might just run out of room here as Steve Janssen goes to the inside, the defensive line into turn one, and eventually the S's deep on the brakes for Guy Leach. He starts to turn in, which was a little cheeky, but he's allowed to do it, and he's got the inside line for turn two. You know, he's going to have to check him up here. Oh, he just gives him a little bit of a hip check as they go into Curva de Sol, but move done. Now here comes Kyle Stokes. Here's the chance that he wanted. Kyle won't get the draft of Guy, unlike Steve Janssen is able to get, but he should be deep under brakes just to get the move done and dusted. Does McLeod try to follow him through? He does, he tries, he almost causes an incident, but he will get a little bit of an overlap to potentially have a look at Ferradura. So this is brave for Mitch McLeod, but Kyle Stokes, a crucial pass there.
Talking never left. Through the right-hand side, Andrew Gilliam has got through on Tom Freer. He's up into second, and Freer let him have it massively through the big Laranjina right-hander. So that's a big change of positions then, as looking Marlon Mcmullen suddenly on the back of Mitch McLeod, thinking about a way to get down the inside of a driver formerly caliber of race win. Now, not so much in terms of this modern era of sim racing as they go through the next section. Janssen still ahead of both of them, though at this stage, and they battle in the mid-pack because all of a sudden, Bo Albert has a very poor section, and he finds himself now behind also those as they continue to go on and cars are off.
Yeah, Mitch McLeod licked the stamp, but the post office was not open at Yung Sao, so he just went sailing off the road. Cost a bit of time to Janssen, who had to check up, but that's really good news for McMullen. And Kyle Stokes has quickly gotten on the job with Guy Leach, so he's looking to make quick work of the Zuva Racing driver and potentially Josh Pickett ahead, who is sporting some damage. So an interesting phase of the race for Kyle Stokes to get some moves done. Bo Albert still hasn't gotten past on Scott Gamble, so still Gamble doing a really solid job here. Bo just unable to quite get the move, as we see James Scott as well on the back of Kinman. So I'm wondering how much of a fight Kinman is going to put up. We know he's typically a passive kind of guy. He is a passive kind of guy, but he does have 6th spot, and he has no need to give it up, no obligation to give it up. And I think he's looking more ahead of Jamie McKnight, who's starting to struggle now. He's dropped off the back of Claire Mason. He's losing about 2 to 3 tenths to Kinman behind, who we know is trying to hold off James Scott. So Jamie McKnight potentially on borrowed time here.
Well, it's very borrowed time as side-by-side Guy Leach and Kyle Stokes go, and crucially McMullen is through on Janssen. So McMullen moves up to the top 15, and all of a sudden the question becomes, what does Andrew Gilliam have left to chase down Damien Johnstone? We know that Johnstone's on the older tyres, but we know that he's had 6 laps on those tyres where he hasn't had to do a single thing, where Gilliam had to slide and worry, and he's been up on 2 wheels, and he's had everything that's gone on. That gap is 3.9 seconds. They cross the line this time. The gap becomes 3.3. 6 tenths come down, 6 laps to go. It's on for the race win here, as here comes James Scott down the inside of one David Kinman, and there is a freebie on the ascent man.
Yeah, so Kinman did let him have it easy in the end there. Now we just try to follow him through on Jamie McKnight. They'll have to try to cooperate the RT teammates and try somehow not to let Kinman through. But yeah, again, Jamie on a bit of borrowed time here. It doesn't actually give the position there into the Desquita de Largo, which is a bit of a surprise. Look at how late Gamble is on the brakes there. I think that's been the main strength to be able to keep Bo behind. Here comes Scott again. Yeah, he's given the brake tap. No, he's given the brake tap. I thought that was the brake tap to let him through. He's fighting for it. So this is counterintuitive from Evolution Racing Team. Or is he going to have a send into Laranjina? Of course it's going to be the send, and he's got it done, giving him plenty of room. Oh, almost misses the apex, but gives him plenty of room to come back.
Oh, and look at how massive the train is, as all of a sudden McMullen finds a way through on Josh Pickett. Another position gained for Marlon in his championship. And look at this, huge look from Bo down the inside of Gamble. He gives the turn almost there to one Mr. David Kinman. And now all of a sudden Scott Gamble's going to try and get in. Jack Boyd on the back of this too, wanting to gain positions. Can he find around the outside of Gamble? Well, roll your lucky dice, and he's almost got it, but he's not going to get it overall. Nice try.
Yeah, again, so the run from out of Yung Sao has really worked well for Gamble, but now he doesn't have much to answer for with Jack Boyd, who through the down to the inside of turn 1. The draft won't help Gamble much here, but an excellent fight put up nonetheless. Goes in a little bit deep. Bo turns in a little bit later to make sure, at least that's what it looked like to me. But now they have to press on with these damaged cars in front, which include a sort of struggling David Kinman, but he needs to get back on the horse as well. He's got positions to fight for. Look at the run that Bo Albert's been able to get out of the Curva de Sol. So really looking after the car now after we saw him drifting like Eurobeat.
Not that chance this time, but here's Marlon Mcmullen. This time it's Guy Leach on the hit list. Down the inside at the Desquita de Largo, turn 4, then the left of 5, the bottom part of the track. As you head back up the hill, McMullen has a fantastic move, and it's already done, and he's already a few car lengths clear as he now pulls to try and get to Kyle Stokes. The one issue is they've got to catch Matt Morris, who's 3 seconds down the road, and they're hoping that this pack has a big battle, and this is the James Scott pack that has the big battle, the likes of McKnight, Kinman, Albert, Gamble, and Jack Boyd as well. And here is around the outside from Bo Albert trying to find this move, and once again he's not got it, but he's got the overlap at Mahulo. He's got the inside. Kinman's going to have to try and fight this one, but on the outside it's going to be tough billing to try and make this one work. Can Albert hold him on the outside? Yes, he can. Jack Boyd's going to try and pick the pocket. They're 3 wide up the hill. Oh, you're mental to do this. And Jack Boyd, ultimate opportunist. He gets it done. Contact for Kinman. He'll drop everyone's position.
Yeah, that was experience. Oh, and look at Gamble trying to pick up the pieces as well. So we've got 2 separate battles here for the same spot of road. That's Bo to the inside of Jack Boyd, fighting back, somehow getting enough overlap. Lock up from Boyd. They leave the room side by side into the center S's. Boyd gets the move done, but again, this overlap, the crisscross into the Curva de Sol. Does he do a better job of applying the throttle? You bet he does. He's going to have a great run into the Desquita de Largo this time. So learning quickly is Bo Albert. As there's a bit of a check from Boyd there. Oh, but Boyd very deep on the brakes. Oh, Yeah, but
Too deep?
This is no, yeah,
Too deep.
indeed too deep. The experience was showing off earlier, but now here comes Scott Gamble to pick up the pieces. But the experience from Boyd to get the traction out of Jung Sao to be able to wrap up both of them, but this aggression from Bo to get back on the brakes was really quite phenomenal. And then, of course, down out of the Curva de Sol, was able to get the move done. He locks up again, so he's still struggling to try and hold back Jack Boyd at this point. Oh, and there's going to be a touch, not quite. So Bo's got the move done for now. So somehow he's recovered that spot after having.
Oh, no, he hasn't.
Oh, no, this was close.
Oh, it so very nearly was for Jack Boyd. He's looking everywhere now at Bo, saying, what have you got? Oh, he's giving him a tap through Magulo. You don't look there, Jack Boyd. On the brakes you go. Up at the left-hander once again. And the train, this is exactly what Marlon Mcmullen was hoping. Because now, all of a sudden, Matt Morris has found the back of it. And if they continue to fight like this for the remaining 3 laps of this race, anything can happen. The lead, though, remains at 3 seconds, but Johnstone runs wide at turn 1, so suddenly Gilliam gets a sniff, but it's got to be now for Andrew Gilliam. He hasn't done this at all. It's got to be a second a lap as Bo goes for the inside, and Morris cleans everyone else out. Strike!
Oh, that was really, really disappointing. We're going to have to see a replay once this sorts itself out. But here we go. We're seeing an invert scenario with Boyd getting the run out of the Curva de Sol. Bo runs defensive. So here we are on board with Matt Morris. He picks his normal braking marker, but yeah, with the checkup ahead, there was nothing else he could really do. But he is going to have to put his hand up for a fault at that one.
Oh, and someone who really got away with that was Marlon Mcmullen in all of that. He tried on the rejoin, and Scott Gamble went straight across the circuit to get onto the grass. Mcmullen did so well to check up and avoid. He stays ahead of Guy Leach, ultimately gains 1 more position, puts him to 11th. Half a second gained on this lap, though, for one Andrew Gilliam as he tries to chase down, but I don't think it might be enough. Claire Mason under pressure, though. This is the 4th and 5th place, and Claire Mason in a career best for a female driver in AOSC. This could be a big top 5 and a game-changing top 5 for the female sim racing community.
Absolutely, and what a track to do it at. The traction from James Scott is there. The overlap is now there as well as they head into this Subido dos boxes. This should be an easy move for James Scott as Mason has to get out of the throttle slightly to avoid spearing into the car next to them. So James Scott should have this move done. We also saw I saw a mistake from Jack Boyd that gave Bo Albert a little bit of breathing room, but now that gap has closed up once again. So they're just going to continue fighting for the remaining 2 laps here.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's a fantastic 2 laps to go here at Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace. Battles for the championship. Mcmullen and Guy Leach on the rear trying to stay with. You've got the likes of Bo Albert and Jack Boyd going at it. Matt Morris on the back of it, as is David Kinman. And again, defensive from Bo. He decides it's time to put the defensive markers out there as a look to the inside, potentially on exit from Jack Boyd. They both wiggle there, and Bo Albert does not have the best run in the world. And Jack Boyd, oh, there's no room at the end. No room at the end. Forces the lane on the inside coming up to Ferradura, and Bo has to leave the room on the outside now. The inside is there for the Gone Rogue driver, and has he got it all sorted on the brakes? It's not guaranteed as they go through this section. Morris now, the skittler on the outside now, trying to look in and getting a position. There's a lap and a bit to go here, Ross, but ultimately Jack Boyd's still going for it.
Oh, Bo didn't cover into the Bica de Pato. He had the overlap, but he needed to get back across. But he didn't do it for some reason. He had the opportunity, but now has to fight through this left-hander and then back into Jung Sao, where, again, we've seen Jack be really, really good here. And here comes Morris to potentially play a role here. He almost collects the 2 of them. And here we go, side by side again. That traction from Jack Boyd in the GRM car around the outside, playing beautifully to him now. And here comes Morris. Is he going to try and go 3 wide here?
Well, it's the last lap, so this is what you got to do. Damien Johnstone, 2.2 seconds ahead of Andrew Gilliam. Here comes Bo Albert, looking for the move down the inside. Jack Boyd was the first on the brakes. No, bang, there's contact. Boyd gets slid into by Morris, who gets a second strike, that time only a spare, because of the fact of who was there. And now all of a sudden, there is Kyle Stokes in the background, and Mcmullen will hope that they make more and more contact at the front. Johnstone clear by leagues here compared to Andrew Gilliam, who has not had the turn of pace to try and chase this all down. But this battle becomes crucial. Morris again, the tyres are dead. for him, as now David Kinman might think about making a move. Kyle Stokes wants something on the fringes of the championship, trying to gain something here, and it will be minimum on one Mr. That is Marlon Mcmullen, who just is a bit too far back and needs a run to the line. Another look from Jack Boyd, nothing doing, and now here's Kyle Stokes on the outside, thinking of any opportunities that he's got left, but only the handful of corners to go for Damian Johnstone, who rounds himself up through Yun Sao. Now, Sabina dos Boxes and Archibancadas remain for a man who played the strategy card perfectly, who showed he had great pace on old tyres and had a bit of help to boot as well. Damian Johnstone wins at Interlagos for Gone Rogue. Gilliam keeps the title alive in second. Third will go to Tom Freer, but we look further back with the likes of James Scott fourth and the career best for female sim racers, Claire Mason, top 5, Albert Clear, but they will battle to the line, and Jack Boyd is going to get there, but it's a thieved stole position for Kyle Stokes. He got it right at the death on David Kinman. Absolutely magnificent.
That was a wild final lap, and we're used to seeing that here. They're still filing across the line, but I don't think there's as many battles as we have here. So we have Simon Vella crossing the line 22nd, Stacey Walker, Jordan Ross having to come back to 25th place. Actually a pretty solid job considering the state of that car. But a disaster for the championship. Bret Locksmith down in 31st as well from 3rd place. What a disaster for some of these guys, but what an amazing race we've seen yet again at Interlagos.
Well, it is madness, it is craziness, but this is AOSC at its very, very finest. Classified results then are up on your screen. Damian Johnstone picks up the win. An hour, a minute, 18 seconds, and he did so from 11th position on the grid. Not many people had him circled as favourite to win this, but Damian Johnstone picks it up. Andrew Gilliam, a great recovery drive to second after the early safety car completely changed the way this race was run. Tom Freer gets a podium, and in fact goes back-to-back podiums to have a strong case of form heading into this final few rounds of the season. James Scott gets 4th position, a great ride from the Evolution Racing Team driver, with Claire Mason a career best for not only herself, but also for female sim racers with a top 5. Jamie McKnight, a big 6th place for him, with Bo Albert getting 7th, ahead of Matt Morris, who will take a lot of points away in the championship after 2 big incidents in the final 3 laps.
Yeah, Morris a big protagonist in that final few laps. You could probably say antagonist, and we said it could potentially play a role in this championship, and boy did it for the likes of Stokes and McMullen. So Jack Boyd coming home 9th after a huge battle with Bo Albert and the like. Kyle Stokes just mugging David Kinman right at the line. So an excellent recovery for Stokes into the top 10. David Kinman in 11th, and then Marlon Mcmullen in 12th. Solid result. Solid recovery, but the result not what he was after at all. Guy Leach making a very good, coming very good on his rather average qualifying from 25th into 13th. Then Joshua Pickett, who played a very, very big role in the antics of that mid-pack battle, will come home in 14th place. Steve Jensen somehow avoiding a lot of that action. Not a quiet race like we usually see, into 15th. And then Michael Taliantich, after a strong qualifying but a disastrous race in the end, coming home in 16th place.
Scott Gamble was the beneficiary of contact with Matt Morris. He gets 17th on all of that. Greg Sharp, 18th place with Mark Samuel, team boss at Mark 1, having to lead the flag for them, 19th place overall. Sean Thompson was involved in the incident with Jordan Ross, the big incident for the championship, 20th position overall. Josh Perween in his first race in AOSC gets 21st, with Simon Vella 22nd overall. Gavin Cox gets 23rd. Stacey Walker 24th from 42nd.
Then in 25th we have Jordan Ross, probably the heartbreak story of the race, having to visit the pit lane on multiple occasions for damage. Won't help his championship when he was sneaking in looking good for a chance of stealing the championship. Then we have Jet Bennett in 26th, Mitchell McLeod 27th after a very ambitious braking maneuver at Yung Sao. In 28th we have Matthew Norris, and then Mark Dial from 46th to 29th. So solid run for the Mark. Is that a Mark 1 or a redback car? I think it's a redback car. Then we have Bret Locksmith from 3rd down to 30th. Absolutely could not have asked for a worse race for a previous series champion. Then Blair Walton in 31st place and 32nd went to Darren Goosey.
It's worth noting that Mark Dial, after 5 laps, was a lap down to get back on the leading lap and gain 17 positions. Big hats off to Mark Dial's drive today. 33rd would go to Anthony Green with Will Newell for the last of the leading drivers in 34th. And then it's a retirement list which goes down 15-ish drivers. Rob Harris, Chris Barnes, Ryan Jones couldn't find the end of the race, nor could Dylan Shepherd and Nathan Tregarthen. Henry King included in that, and I'll just not lop off the rest of the names here. The likes of Brad Newman in there. Jake Maloney couldn't make it to the end, nor could Kane Houston, Shane Evans, Shane Rayner, Hayden Vale, also the likes of Christian Smart, Dylan DeBono, and Cruz McVeigh, all getting out at a very similar point in time. Well, what we're going to do is we are going to get a talk with those who had some brilliant results. First of all is the man who finished in 2nd position overall. That was Andrew Gilliam, and he is going to be stood by with Ross Rizzo.
Andrew, you gave a magnificent chase in the end there, having to recover back in the field from 2 safety car restarts to pass a heap of cars and only just fall short of a very impressive drive from Damian Johnston. Where do you want to begin with that race? Because you were in the thick of it from the very first drop of the flag, and then, of course, the cautions immediately after.
Yeah, it was starting off. It was a good start, clean start, and then I was just having a bit of fun in that ERT sandwich, and then I was literally planning to pit. Like, we were already out of the final corner, and I was planning to pit in about 150 meters time as the yellow flag came out, and I was like, oh no, here we go. So I knew we had a bit of tough work ahead of us, but compared to De Catalunya, not as many people had pitted because it was actually quite an early safety car. So I think we came out around about 15th in the first restart. And then, yeah, that was a crazy first restart. I nearly rolled it. I was just trying to go around the outside at turn 1, and all of a sudden, bang, and I'm cutting through the grass at turn 2 and trying to refocus. And then, yeah, from that second restart, it was all about just keeping my head down and trying to just get places until the end.
Well, I must say that that Gold Coast style 2-wheeling out of turn 2 on the restart looked pretty spectacular. I was wondering if you had damage, but importantly, I wanted to ask, you managed to jump Jordan Ross despite him being able to probably fuel save in that earlier stint. Did you short fill for the pit stop? And of course, when the restart happened, did you get any damage after the contact?
Yeah, I got a bit of an advantage being in the very first pit lane. So I exited the pit lane and I didn't have to be fully up to speed by the time I exited pit lane. So Jordan actually left his box first, but I was able to reach that cone marker in time. If it was like a V8 Scops event where the like on-track officials decided, that definitely would have been Ross's position for sure. And also, yeah, I did get a little bit of aero damage as well. It wasn't anything spectacular, but yeah, just enough to start seeing the delta go down towards the end of the straights.
Well, it was an absolutely frenetic race and a brilliant drive from you. So the floor is yours for shout-outs.
I'd just like to thank the team. We worked really hard making this incredible setup, and I'd love to give a massive shout out to our sponsors, Track Racer and MXTV, for their awesome support. And yeah, it's just been an awesome weekend. Thank you very much, guys.
Awesome job, Andrew. We have Jake Sperry stood by with our race winner, Damian Johnston from Gone Rogue Motorsport.
Damien, it's a big victory for Gone Rogue. You look at this race, you look at how it pans out in terms of your season. You've been on the cusp of top 10s, top 5s. Gone Rogue have been a little bit hit and miss, but a big victory. Finally, how did it all come together for you?
Just same thing I do every race. Just pitted early and found myself at the front of the pack again, and said to myself, I got one shot to win this tonight. So yeah, it was good.
You're looking at the relative going down, but not by much at all. You keep your pace up. You've got 3 seconds with 3 laps to go. At what point do you start thinking this race victory could be mine? And how important is this victory in the context of your season?
4 laps ago, I was getting a bit nervous, but just tried to focus and tried to forget about the relative altogether and brought it home. And yeah, it's a good way to be at the back end of the season and pick up a win.
Well, a big, big victory. And of course, with not long left in the season, you've got Lime Rock coming up, which is a very, very difficult track in terms of getting position and overtaking. It's a 60-60 as well. So how is this one going to play into your factors of how I attempt, how I try and challenge this race, knowing that every final points position could be vital?
Just race clean and stay out of trouble and just try and maximise the points.
Well, before we let you go, Damien, your first big victory, a shout out, a sponsor. Who gets it done for you with the boys at Gone Rogue?
Yeah, all the boys at GRM, Shane, Smarty, the sponsors, Valvoline, MSS for Scotty, Fred Valla. Yeah, everyone, SimSpeed as well, and you guys are putting on the show, obviously. So, yeah, it's good to get one for GRM. Thank you.
Well, Damien Johnstone clearly very excited about a big race victory for him. Tom Freer came third for Team Hyperdrive. He stood by with Ross Rizzo.
So, Tom, you picked up your first podium at Catalunya just a few weeks ago, and you wasted no time whatsoever to get back on the podium. So, an excellent drive to third place for you from 8th on the grid. It looked for a moment that you could have potentially stolen the win, but Damien did have the legs on you. So, what happened in the final stint, and where was Damien able to pull away from you?
Yeah, well, Damien just absolutely nailed the restart. Pulled a nice little gap early, and I think by that stage I was already on the back foot trying to keep up, and yeah, just absolutely mulched the tyres in the end and had nothing left. So heavy understeer in the second stint, bit unfortunate, but happy to pick up another podium.
You did pit incredibly early. I think you were the first of our main contenders to make their pit stop. So did the tires really start to fall as a result of that? And how hard were you fighting for those first couple of laps, having to get past slower traffic?
Um, it's hard to say. I actually felt I had really good tyre life in that first little stint. I thought it would hold on to the end, so that's the reason I made the decision to come in early. But yeah, I was a little bit wrong with that. But yeah, it came off in the end. Podium's never a bad thing, and yeah, it was good fun.
So the big question: when do you think you'll break through for the big W, the big win for Hyperdrive? It should be coming. You've got some great pace. You've learned a lot from this race and shown some excellent tenacity tonight. Do you think you can do back up another result at Lime Rock Park in the 60-60?
Lime Rock is a track I've actually done quite a few laps on. It's one I enjoy as well. So I'm hoping we'll be up the pointy end again. You never know. Obviously, there's a lot of really quick guys in this series, but I don't know. We'll do our best. We'll tune it up over the next week or so and come out swinging.
All right, thanks very much for that, Tom. The floor is yours for you to give shout outs.
Yeah, just a massive thank you to CalStars. Their support's been brilliant this year. Sixth Gear Imagery and Force X Design. Couldn't do it without them. So big thank you to all of them.
All right, thanks very much, Tom. And we have one last quick interview with Marlon, Marlon as we call him out mid-conversation, but a big championship implication scenario for Jake to divulge.
Well, out of the frying pan and into the fire, Marlon. You had a big championship lead coming into this. You had two very feisty rivals coming in from the outsides. You've had a big incident in the middle of the pack. Just talk us through the restart that happened then and your perspective of what ended up in a big incident.
Pandemonium. That's the only simplified word I can say. No, look, I don't know what happened. It was a bit of a mess, this safety car going green thing. I don't know, just 5 cars going wide. I try and go for that little, what I thought was a safe area down on the left side, and then I don't know, all these 3 cars on the right are just bang, 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 and I'm into the wall, and then the whole computer freezes up, and I'm trying to slam on the brakes and not dart across the track's already happening. So it's just really frustrating because I had the same thing happen last week, but it's not the end of the world. I still had one fast repair, and yeah, me and Kyle, we worked really well together, even though we're battling as well. But I mean, I was 37th, he was 36th, and we came back up to 12th and 10th really cleanly. So I don't know. It's just really frustrating, but it's really good to have these nice recovery drives. So it sort of puts me still, in contention, because I don't know what happened to Jordan now.
Well, Jordan Ross found himself in an incident of his own. He got turned around during the race. So you now find yourself in a position where you need to now think about who you're fighting with. Andrew Gilliam coming to form at the right time. Is that a concern for you heading into Lime Rock?
Oh, I mean, you've seen the last 2 rounds. We've got a 60-60 next round, a reverse grid, no drop round. It's going to be, I don't know. It's just, you try and have the best hopes you can, stay out of the trouble, but, it's just a matter of luck these days. So the best thing I can do is put in the laps, put in the practice. I felt really good tonight to obviously, come back through the field, same as last week. So I know I got a bit of pace in me. Qualified well, which is, been something I haven't done all season. But yeah, I don't know. I just got to keep working a little bit harder and just try and, I don't know, if I got to run off the track 100 miles further, it's just got to do it.
Well, hopefully we'll see some good results for you. Marlon Mcmullen, a good recovery drive for him. It's not all the points in the world that he could get, but it was some come the end. But before we close proceedings here tonight from the magical Interlagos circuit, Ross, your final thoughts as we head away from here and head to Lime Rock Park, a track which every iRacer knows by the back of their hand.
Certainly, Lime Rock will be very exciting, but it's got big shoes to fill after tonight's race. That safety car really threw the cat amongst the pigeons, with half the fields on the optimum strategy, the rest of them having to fight through it. And I've been waiting for it all season, where we see the midfield have a dramatic impact on the outcome of the race, and we saw that occur on multiple occasions with, of course, that big shunt heading out of the Curva de Sol, and the very, very aggressive battling that we saw, I believe, with Josh Pickett involved with Steve Jansen, Marlon Mcmullen, and Kyle Stokes. So it was a very wild race, and I've been waiting for that kind of race to happen all season. It's finally arrived, and I'm not sure I'm so happy with what I saw, but it was still great to call, and I'm looking forward to wrapping up the standard series at Lime Rock.
Well, we'll see how that one plays out in a couple of weeks' time, but there are some big events coming up on the horizon. Of course, on Monday, we'll have ourselves V8 Supercar action from this circuit. We'll be back here once again. Make sure you tune in for Monday morning British time, and of course Monday evening for all of you Australians watching the programming that we've got. On Thursday, the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge is going to be back in, some TCR action, and others will be back on the calendar. Next Sunday, we head to Belle Isle because the Street Sprint is coming to you, and a big point in the championship for the likes of Jared Filsell and co to try and pick up a mega boost to their chances. Also, next Monday, the Monday after that, we'll also be there for your Supercar Series once again. And on the 20th, we've got the Epiroc Sprint Series Australasia. Make sure you check that out. That's coming along to you from Silverstone. Of course, you can check out any product that has us at SimSpeed TV. Of course, subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network or to SimSpeed TV as well. You can also check out our website, simspeed.tv. You can catch us on Facebook, on Twitch, on Twitter, and on Instagram if you really are that much of a normie. But for the time being, though, there's a lot that has gone on, from thanks to Ross Rizzo and also to Jay Kennedy as well behind the cameras. I, of course, have been Jake Sperry. My goodness, how does this championship keep twisting and turning, and how does it end up with such a brilliant race again and again and again? Damien Johnstone deserved his victory, hands down, but the title forever changed as Lime Rock becomes the next bastion for Mcmullen to desperately cling onto a title lead. We'll see you very soon.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys, I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?